Okay, good morning. Welcome to the webinar As Smooth as Oil. My name is Yoshihide Endo, GIAHS coordinator. Before starting, I would like to announce that today we have simultaneous interpretation in the 6 FAO languages and Italian. At the bottom of the screen, you can find the symbol of the world. By clicking on it, you can select the language channel. Now I would like to invite Her Excellency Ambassador Vincenza Lomonaco, Permanent Representative Italy to the UN Agency in Rome, to moderate the opening session. Ambasciatore, per favore. Grazie.
Grazie molto Mister Endo e cari amici, cari colleghi, benvenuti a questo nuovo appuntamento della serie di seminari organizzati dalla rappresentanza permanente d'Italia presso le Nazioni Unite a Roma e dalla FAO nel contesto dell'iniziativa sui principi della dieta mediterranea e delle altre diete salutari e tradizionali che contribuiscono al raggiungimento degli obiettivi di sviluppo sostenibile dell'Agenda 2030. È un piacere per me ringraziare innanzitutto il segretario generale del Ministero degli Affari Esteri e della Cooperazione Internazionale, ambasciatore e amico Ettore Sequi, che ci onora ancora una volta di introdurre, come il precedente seminario, i lavori di questa giornata. E un grazie di cuore va alla vice direttrice generale Maria Elena Semedo, al suo staff e al segretariato GIAHS, che ci ha permesso di realizzare col prezioso lavoro e l'attività costante di assistenza a noi questa giornata, una giornata particolare. Infatti l'evento di oggi ha un focus su uno degli alberi più straordinari e resilienti del nostro pianeta, l'olivo, simbolo di pace, di tenacia, protagonista silenzioso ed affascinante della macchia mediterranea, in grado di adattarsi anche ai terreni più impervi e di sopportare lunghi periodi di siccità. Preparatevi dunque ad un viaggio affascinante, in cui inizieremo ad approfondire insieme la conoscenza dell'olio d'oliva, i suoi aspetti culturali, le potenzialità economiche e i benefici nutrizionali di questo ingrediente, ma viaggeremo in altri continenti, soffermandoci anche su altri oli tradizionali. Parleremo dell'uso dell'olio di riso nel washoku, la cucina tradizionale giapponese. Scopriremo l'olio di Toreja, prodotto nel sito GIAHS di Shaoxing, in Cina. Impareremo le virtù dell'olio di palma e resteremo affascinati dalle sue coltivazioni sostenibili. E in un tour virtuale percorreremo le strade millenarie di Taula del Senia in Spagna e dei suoi ulivi. E infine i tanti benefici dell'olio di argan e di come viene utilizzato in Marocco. Un ringraziamento di cuore va a tanti esperti internazionali intervenuti da tutto il mondo che renderanno questa giornata certamente ricca di spunti interessanti. Ed è un piacere per me adesso dare la parola al segretario generale della Farnesina, ambasciatore Ettore Sequi. Grazie.
Buongiorno a tutti. Sono lieto di introdurre un nuovo appuntamento dell'iniziativa di andare come sapete, questa serie di seminari è parte di un impegno più generale di una missione storica che l'Italia porta avanti in uso sano, sostenibile e sanitario. Sono proprio le caratteristiche della dieta mediterranea che noi promuoviamo assieme altre diete salutari grazie alla collaborazione con i paesi membri dell'Alleanza per la promozione dei principi della dieta mediterranea e delle altre diete tradizionali salutari per l'agenda 2030. Più che mai le conseguenze della guerra in Ucraina, su quelli che sono gli approvvigionamenti. Proprio le caratteristiche della dieta mediterranea che noi promuoviamo assieme alle altre diete tradizionali e salutari, grazie anche alla crescente collaborazione con i Paesi membri dell'Alleanza per la promozione dei principi della dieta mediterranea e delle altre diete tradizionali e salutari dell'Agenda 2030. Oggi più che mai, a conseguenza della guerra in Ucraina, quelli che sono gli mondiali di grano e di altre derrate alimentari, ci ricordano quanto i temi della sicurezza alimentare, dell'accesso al cibo, i temi della salvaguardia di coltivazione, di produzione, di commercializzazione siano prioritari per il mantenimento internazionale. Sono questioni che talvolta noi diamo per scontate a fronte invece della loro importanza. La dieta mediterranea che noi promuoviamo assieme alle altre diete tradizionali e salutari, grazie anche alla crescente collaborazione con i Paesi membri dell'Alleanza per la promozione dei principi della dieta mediterranea e delle altre diete tradizionali e salutari dell'Agenda 2030. Oggi più che mai le conseguenze della guerra in Ucraina, quelli che sono gli approvvigionamenti mondiali di grano e di altre derrate alimentari, ci ricordano quanto i temi della sicurezza alimentare, dell'accesso al cibo, i temi della salvaguardia di coltivazioni, di produzione, di commercializzazione siano prioritari per il mantenimento degli equilibri internazionali. Sono questioni che talvolta noi diamo.
I'm sorry, there are some technical problems. We're trying to solve them.
Per scontate a fronte invece della loro importanza vitale per ogni essere umano del pianeta. Per mantenerle, come è giusto che sia, al centro dell'agenda globale, le organizzazioni e le agenzie del Polo Romano delle Nazioni Unite rappresentano istituzioni indispensabili. Voglio insistere su questo punto, indispensabile. Per questa ragione, così come per l'aiuto che darà all'Italia e agli altri paesi europei impegnati in iniziative di mantenimento di rivolgo ancora una volta un grande ringraziamento alla FAO. Saluto e ringrazio inoltre tutti gli esperti internazionali che contribuiranno a rendere questa giornata un'occasione veramente proficua di scambio di idee e buone pratiche. Inoltre, un doveroso e direi meritatissimo plauso alla nostra bravissima rappresentante permanente, ambasciatrice Vincenza al Monaco, che a breve porterà il suo entusiasmo, la sua efficacia, la sua competenza nel nuovo prestigioso incarico che l'attende al Ministero degli Affari Esteri della Cooperazione Internazionale. L'incarico è quello di direttore generale per la mondializzazione degli affari globali. Oggi parleremo di un altro autentico protagonista della dieta mediterranea, Si tratta dell'olio d'oliva. L'olio d'oliva è una sostanza preziosa per i suoi molteplici usi fin dall'antichità, un alimento capace di negli affari globali. Oggi parleremo di un altro degli ingredienti principali, autentico protagonista della dieta mediterranea. Si tratta dell'olio d'oliva. L'olio d'oliva è una sostanza preziosa per i suoi molteplici usi fin dall'antichità, un alimento capace di generare e unire culture, la cui storia millenaria si è intrecciata con quella delle civiltà sorte lungo le coste del Mediterraneo. Ne ha accompagnato l'evoluzione. L'olio di oliva è stato definito nell'antichità succo mediterraneo della immortalità. Ed è proprio il Mediterraneo, con il suo microclima caldo e asciutto, con le sue caratteristiche uniche, il luogo di elezione dell'ulivo, prima selvatico e poi domestico. Dalla Mesopotamia.
Sorry, we will try, another colleague is going to try to share from her computer. Very sorry for this.
Passando per la Siria, la Grecia, la Turchia, l'olivo si è diffuso progressivamente in tutto il bacino del Mediterraneo, dall'Italia alla Francia, alla Spagna, fino alle coste settentrionali dell'Africa. Elemento sacro, l'olio è un simbolo di eternità e di tenacia, un ingrediente potente, esiste al tempo in senso fisico e in senso naturale. L'olio di oliva, il protagonista di questa giornata, è da sempre utilizzato nel campo della medicina, della cosmesi, della conservazione alimentare, della illuminazione e persino dello sport. Ancora oggi è considerato simbolo di pace.
Sorry, could we go ahead with Mr. Zitouni's speech, and while we try to solve the issue?
Yes, Clelia, I thank you very much for this suggestion. I think it's much better because we would like to have the complete speech of our Secretary General. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you and good morning, everyone. And thank you very much, Ambassador Lomanaco. It's always a pleasure to have these events with you. You bring us all together around something interesting and tasty. And I think we're going to learn so much with this series of events that you started. So thank you very much for that. I just want to say a few words to set the context and to highlight really the importance of this event, which is part of this webinar series on the Mediterranean diet principles for Agenda 2030. As you know, the whole world really is on focus on achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We only have 8 years to achieve these goals, and they all matter to everyone around the world. So this is the third event organized under this series led by the Italian mission to FAO, and particularly Ambassador Lomonaco. So it's my pleasure really to welcome everyone to this event and to highlight the fact that the aim here is to analyze how olive oil and other traditional oils that you will hear about are not just from their agricultural point of view, but also in terms of their value for culture, for the traditions, for the economic contributions, and the nutritional value as well. As Ambassador Lomonaco said, you know, the olive tree in particular is an extraordinary and resilient tree, and it's also a symbol of peace, and it has an amazing resilience to harsh condition of the environment and also to the climate change. And when we talk about, you know, trees in particular, the ones that produce oil, when we see the oil being produced and we enjoy it for the values I mentioned earlier, particularly the nutritional value, the trees also grow by sequestering CO2 from the atmosphere. So while we're producing nutritious food, they're also contributing to combating climate change in addition to their resilience. So this is really another aspect to take into account given the current climate that we have now to do with the climate crisis. So in this context, the collaboration again with the globally important agricultural heritage systems, the GIAHS, is really strongly promoted by Italy, and we very much appreciate that, and we thank you for that. And it has been key really to showing the linkage between the principles of the Mediterranean and other traditional diets with the concept of agricultural heritage and sustainable rural development in general. And Italy in particular has been really a leading country in many of these activities. It is a big producer and consumer of olive oil. It has also been successful in combining tradition and innovation, which is also the main objective of GIS programs. So that in fact, that today's webinar will not focus on olive oil only, as you know, but you will hear from other olives as well and other experiences with the most recent innovation practices and users. So we're very pleased to have speakers from all around the world who will take us through a tour, if you like, from around the world, where you will hear from different places where a variety of vegetable oils is being produced and used in local culture and local gastronomy. So we're very pleased to have speakers from Italy, from China, Spain, and Morocco, and you will be able to learn, we'll be able to learn together about their experiences, about the integral way of looking at the production systems that characterize these unique agricultural systems. So what is fundamental also to highlight is the fact that the importance of analyzing these traditional diets and their contributions to the sustainable development goals is really fundamental in raising our awareness of the role of smallholder farmers, the family farmers, and also the traditional communities who are, as you all know, custodians of biodiversity, as well as cultures in all these countries of the world where these practices are taking place. So the program and its approach are relevant to many things that we're trying to do around the world, the challenges around the world, and the various initiatives that we are using as means of adopting solutions, such as the UN Decade on Family Farming, the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, and also the International Agenda on Biodiversity. And all these really are very important in this agenda. And there are 65 sites that are recognized all around the world for their livelihoods of many smallholders by looking at sustainable development of these areas during the last 20 years or so. And at FAO, we're developing a new strategy on climate change that is also relevant to this context, looking at what needs to be done globally and at regional level and at a local level as well. So innovation really introduced through its dynamic conservation approach for this program, GIAHS program, include market promotion and branding, agritourism, gastronomic tourism, cultural event, and territorial development actions. So all these are some of the other co-benefits that comes from these sites, and also in the context of production of oil and the various co-benefits that I mentioned. So I hope this sets the scene, and just briefly wanted to highlight some elements that I hope will be really pertinent to this very important discussion. And again, I would like to thank Ambassador Lomonaco again for bringing us together towards this really fascinating topic. And I wish you all a very fruitful event and something that we can all learn from going forward. And please maintain this collaboration through this series of webinars. Thank you again, and back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Zeitouni. I'm sorry to intervene. We will now try again to launch Dr. Sekwi, so the Secretary General's video contribution. So just a second. Let's hope that my trial is working. One sec. Sorry, the audio is not working. Lelia, sorry, can you maybe try again? Because maybe it's because of the recording. I have the recording in progress and it's not working.
Colleagues in audiovisual services have now the video. Could you please support us?
Yes, Clelia, just 1 second.
Buongiorno a tutti. Sono molto lieto di introdurre un nuovo appuntamento dell'iniziativa Mediterranean Diets Principles for Agenda 2030. Come sapete, questa serie di seminari è parte di un impegno più generale, direi quasi una missione storica che l'Italia porta avanti nel nome di uno stile alimentare sano, equilibrato, sostenibile e che sia anche buono. Sono proprio le caratteristiche della dieta mediterranea che noi promuoviamo assieme alle altre diete tradizionali e salutari, grazie anche alla crescente collaborazione con i Paesi membri dell'Alleanza per la promozione dei principi della dieta mediterranea e delle altre diete tradizionali e salutari per l'Agenda 2030. Oggi più che mai le conseguenze della guerra in Ucraina su quelli che sono gli approvvigionamenti mondiali di grano e di altre derrate alimentari ci ricordano quanto i temi della sicurezza alimentare, dell'accesso al cibo, i temi della salvaguardia di coltivazioni, di produzione, di commercializzazione siano prioritari per il mantenimento degli equilibri internazionali. Sono questioni che talvolta noi diamo per scontate a fronte invece della loro importanza vitale per ogni essere umano del pianeta. Per mantenerle, come è giusto che sia, al centro dell'agenda globale, le organizzazioni e le agenzie del Polo Romano delle Nazioni Unite rappresentano istituzioni indispensabili. E voglio insistere su questo punto, indispensabili. Per questa ragione, così come per l'aiuto che darà all'Italia e agli altri paesi europei impegnati in iniziative di mantenimento e di contenimento dell'attuale crisi alimentare e naturalmente per il prezioso sostegno nella realizzazione dell'evento di oggi, io rivolgo ancora una volta un grande ringraziamento alla FAO. Saluto e ringrazio inoltre tutti gli esperti internazionali che contribuiranno a rendere questa giornata un'occasione veramente proficua di scambio di idee e di buone pratiche. Inoltre, consentitemi un doveroso e direi meritatissimo plauso alla nostra bravissima rappresentante permanente, l'ambasciatrice Vincenza Lo Monaco, che tra breve porterà il suo entusiasmo, la sua efficacia, la sua competenza nel nuovo prestigioso incarico che l'attende al Ministero degli Affari Esteri e della Cooperazione Internazionale. L'incarico è quello di Direttore Generale per la Mondializzazione e gli Affari Globali. Oggi parleremo di un altro degli ingredienti principali, autentico protagonista della dieta mediterranea. Si tratta dell'olio d'oliva. L'olio d'oliva è una sostanza preziosa per i suoi molteplici usi fin dall'antichità, un alimento capace di generare e unire culture, la cui storia millenaria si è intrecciata con quella delle civiltà sorte lungo le coste del Mediterraneo e ne ha accompagnato l'evoluzione e le migrazioni. L'olio di oliva è stato definito nell'antichità succo mediterraneo della immortalità ed è proprio il Mediterraneo, con il suo microclima caldo e asciutto, con le sue caratteristiche uniche, il luogo di elezione dell'ulivo, prima selvatico e poi domestico. Dalla Mesopotamia, passando per la Siria, la Grecia, la Turchia, l'olivo si è diffuso progressivamente in tutto il bacino del Mediterraneo, dall'Italia alla Francia, alla Spagna, fino alle coste settentrionali dell'Africa. Elemento sacro, l'olio è un simbolo di eternità e di tenacia, un ingrediente potente che resiste al tempo in senso fisico e in senso metaforico. L'olio di oliva, il protagonista di questa giornata, è da sempre utilizzato nel campo della medicina, della cosmesi, della conservazione alimentare, della illuminazione e persino dello sport. Ancora oggi è considerato simbolo di pace, di forza, fede, trionfo e onore. Se una coltivazione così antica è sopravvissuta fino ai giorni nostri, è proprio grazie alla sua incredibile versatilità di utilizzo, che gli ha guadagnato nei secoli l'appellativo di oro verde, anche in quanto fonte di reddito e di sostentamento per centinaia di migliaia di produttori in Italia e in ogni angolo del Mediterraneo. L'olio di oliva, come sapete, svolge un ruolo di primo piano nella filiera agroalimentare italiana. Dagli uliveti disseminati in tutta la penisola si spremano 49 oli a certificazione europea. Le cultivar regionali sono 672. Abbiamo circa 650.000 aziende attive nel settore. Nel triennio 2018-2021 abbiamo prodotto oltre 3 milioni di quintali di olio di oliva. Ma oltre al potenziale economico di questo prodotto e alla sua elevata qualità, io ritengo ci sia un fatto importante da mettere in luce ed è la salubrità e il contributo che esso fornisce a un corretto equilibrio nutrizionale. La comunità scientifica, infatti, è concorde nel riconoscere all'olio di oliva proprietà benefiche che contrastano l'invecchiamento cellulare, migliorano le difese immunitarie e facilitano la prevenzione di malattie croniche e non trasmissibili. Solo per citare alcune delle sue virtù salutari. E il nostro Paese, come sapete, è da tempo determinato a far sì che i consumatori di tutta Europa e di tutto il mondo acquisiscano sempre maggiore consapevolezza di queste superiori caratteristiche dell'olio di oliva, anche attraverso campagne di comunicazione e grazie a sistemi di etichettatura chiari ed esaustivi. Voglio poi ricordare la straordinaria sostenibilità ambientale e idrica delle produzioni olearie, così come l'armoniosa integrazione nei paesaggi sui quali si impiantano gli uliveti. Ne troviamo testimonianza, ad esempio, nella fascia olivata Assisi-Spoleto, inserita nella lista FAO dei sistemi del patrimonio agricolo di rilevanza mondiale GIAHS, avvenuta nel 2018. Queste sono solo alcune istantanee degli innumerevoli vantaggi associati alla coltivazione, alla produzione e al consumo di olio di oliva. I relatori che interverranno tra poco vi illustreranno certamente l'intero spettro dei benefici di questo prodotto, così come di altri oli vegetali tradizionali e salutari. Resta un dato di fondo indiscutibile, ovvero il contributo significativo della dieta mediterranea, dei suoi ingredienti e dei suoi principi fondamentali alla costruzione di un modello di sviluppo agricolo e nutrizionale sostenibile, in linea con gli obiettivi dell'Agenda 2030. Tale riguardo è per me un piacere chiudere questo mio saluto introduttivo annunciando l'avvio di un progetto congiunto tra il Ministero degli Esteri e il Ministero della Salute italiani per la costituzione di un osservatorio sulla dieta mediterranea e le altre diete tradizionali e sostenibili. L'osservatorio, che come ho detto sarà istituito tra breve, opererà proprio all'interno della FAO, nel settore nutrizione e nella prospettiva di un ulteriore rafforzamento della nostra collaborazione con il Polo Romano.
Collaboration with the Rome-based United Nations agencies. And finally, I think we can conclude by recalling the fact that a Minister for Agriculture from a country has said that olive oil is healthy, it's good, and it's trendy. Thank you very much for your attention.
Grazie, grazie molte Segretario Generale per queste bellissime parole che hai voluto indirizzarci e grazie anche al
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General, for this speech. I would also like to thank the Assistant Director General for the Office for Climate Change for his introduction. I think we can now give the floor to Professor Mauro Agnoletti, who will be presenting session 2.
Secretary General Sequi, and Mr. Zeitouni and Dr. Endo for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mauro Agnoletti, Director of the Landscape Laboratory at the University of Florence, former chair of the GIAHS Scientific Advisory Group, and currently UNESCO Chair on Agricultural Heritage. Today is my pleasure to guide you with this second segment of the webinar, which is dedicated to analyzing olive oil from cultural, scientific, and economic point of view, and looking into the role of olive oil in local culture, tradition, rural development, and nutritional aspect. The introduction already described many topics that we treated today. I can simply add that as the French historian Brodel wrote, together with wheat, wine, olive oil represent the cultural heritage of the Mediterranean area and its landscape. And as Mr. Zeitouni said, we should not forget the contribution of olive orchard to the incorporation of carbon dioxide. And exactly in the Assisi terrace, the GIAHS olive orchards in GIAHS site today, some important research has been carried out showing that the carbon dioxide incorporated by the olive orchards are even higher than the carbon dioxide incorporated by woodlands in this latitude. This shows the importance of what Mr. Zitouni just said. Also, as Mr. Sekwi said, I'd like to remind that in the current food crisis that we are encountering due to the war in Ukraine, also these food resources that are scattered all over the world, especially in this area, must be promoted and maintained together with other things that have been already said. I'd like to remind that we have a big problem of abandonment of rural areas and also olive orchards. And in this specific period of history, it's important also to restore this area, just to try to resist and to react to these food shocks that I think in the future also for climate change will be more and more frequent. Let me remember some more logistic. We are going to record this session and after upload this to the GIAHS website after the meeting. If you have any question or comment, please place them in the chat box or question and answer box. So we will make sure to reply to your question either directly in the chat or via mail subsequently to the seminar. We have 5 speakers today. I would like to remind to all of them that the interpretation and meeting services will be available only for the duration of the webinar. Therefore, unfortunately, one of my role is to keep your speech within 7 minutes maximum. And I will remind you when there is 1 minute left to your speech. And just to stay in the time that I have been assigned to for this introduction, I would like to give the floor to our first speaker, Dr. Antonio Puzzi, on behalf of Professor Elisabetta Moro from the Research Center on Mediterranean Diet of the University Orsola Benincasa in Naples, who will focus his presentation on the cultural and gastronomic aspect of olive oil in the concept of the Mediterranean diet. Dr. Puzzi, you have the floor. And once again, I remind you that you have 5 minutes. Thank you so much.
Grazie mille, grazie per l'invito e porto innanzitutto i saluti da parte della professoressa Elisabetta Moro che...
Thank you very much. I would like to greet you on behalf of Professor Elisabetta Moro, who unfortunately cannot take part in today's event. However, she's with us in spirit because this issue of olive oil is something which is particularly relevant to us in the Mediterranean. Now, what I wanted to say today has already been very eloquently expressed in the introductory remarks. As Ambassador Sekwi mentioned, olive oil is the juice of immortality and the symbol of peace. I think what we can add to this is that in order to understand the origins of olive oil, you have to look back to antiquity, because since ancient times, different civilizations have been brought together in this region. The culture of ancient Greece has had a major influence on olive oil. They identified 4 types of olive oil, 2 of which were for food purposes and cooking. So their culture was very strong in terms of olive oil. In the Roman Empire, there were 5 types of oil. The value of oil is so high that in Greek mythology, it was the goddess Athena who represented olive oil and brought it to men. And she also represented democracy and the city. As of 2000 BC, the culture of olive oil began, and Romulus and Romulus were in fact born under an olive tree. In many cultures, it's believed that extra virgin olive oil can protect children during their growth. And in some villages, the umbilical cord is actually fried in olive oil. There are tales of particularly effective uses of Sanbiacho oil, for example, which can cure throat aches, or oils that are used in Catholic practice for ointments, for confirmation, baptism, and many other practices. All of this comes from Hebraism. According to the Hebraic tradition, the first olive grove was created by God himself, sending it to Adam, the first man on earth. The name or the word Getsemani refers to the royal oil presser. Now, olive oil is now extremely prominent, but in cooking, it has only been present for a relatively short time, because prior to this, butter was very prevalent in cooking. Chefs only started using olive oil after a series of studies that proved its benefits. I'd like to finish with a story from 1983. In Crete, an author was in a village at the foot of a mountain, and he met a blind man returning from the field. He asked him what was around him, and it was explained to him that the old man wouldn't have been able to reach his plot of land if the young man had not helped him. When he was asked how old the old man was, the reply was 104 years old. And it was well known that every morning the peasants drank a glass of olive oil before going to tend to their land. So this was perhaps the secret to this old man's longevity. So for nutritional and other purposes, we really need to showcase this precious ingredient, olive oil, which is a symbol of the Mediterranean, which in itself is a crossroads of cultures. Olive oil is not just about nutrition, it's about culture as well.
Sure. Being even shorter in respect to the time that you had for your speech. So thank you also for this. And it's my pleasure now to invite the next speaker, Dr. Anna Cane, President of the Olive Oil Group of the Italian Association of Oil Industry, ASITOL. But I would say that Anna Cane has also many other roles that now we have the time to describe. Mrs. Cane, you have 7 minutes. Please go ahead.
Buongiorno a tutti, grazie per la gentile introduzione e soprattutto per l'invito a questo importantissimo evento.
And thank you very much for your kind introduction and for inviting me to this important event. I'm just going to try to share my screen so that you can see my presentation. I am here on behalf of the ASITOL Olive Oil Group, which is a member of the Association of Edible Oil Industry in Italy, which is divided into 8 groups. We represent the main olive oil companies, the main Italian leading brands. This group represents around 50% of oil produced in Italy and 70% of total exports. Italian export volumes stand at approximately 400,000 tons of olive oil per year. Modern consumers are very sensitive to the issue of sustainability. According to a 2020 study, over 15% of consumers consume sustainable food products, 36% wish to buy these products, and 66% would like more information about the origin of products and particularly sustainable products, even if they have already consumed these products. Now, we've already mentioned the issue of tradition, but in order to ensure the sustainability of this business, we also need innovation. Innovation should not be opposed to tradition. Tradition also brings a number of positive elements. What I'd like to highlight here is that there's a need to increase olive oil production. Now, for Italy, I said that we export 400,000 tons per year. In domestic consumption is around 600,000 tons, but production in good years is only around 300,000 tons. So there's a shortfall in production of around 700,000 tons per year. Now, olive oil accounts for around 3% of total oils and fats worldwide. So it has a major growth potential. Scientific research can support us in improving technology. However, this transition to sustainability will also require a cultural transition. As Einstein said, we cannot solve problems with the same mindset we had when we created them. So we need innovation, focusing on sustainability. And we must also bear in mind that while we need to do business, we also need to address a major challenge at a global level. So we cannot simply innovate in terms of technology. We also need to innovate in terms of business model. The value chain of olive oil has several phases, and innovation can be introduced at every level of this supply chain. We often talk about agriculture 4.0, and we can also talk about industry 4.0. So in order to enhance the sustainable olive oil supply chain, we need to act at all levels of this supply chain, and without forgetting the last phase, which is the disposal of used waste. So all of these levels are important. We need to recognize the value and the quality of olive oil as a product, and we can do this through continuously supporting innovation, quality, and transparency as well. We must not forget that farming is extremely important in this chain when it comes to the transition towards sustainability. The perception of all of these components that make up the supply chain must be understood by consumers, and I think this is vital because consumers lack sufficient information around the olive oil supply chain. Now, I'd like to conclude with some take-home messages. A sustainable olive oil industry cannot exist unless sustainable consumers exist. But in order for consumers to be sustainable, they need to be informed. You have 1 minute left. I'm just closing. Olive oil is one of the most studied food products, and a very important study was published recently in The Lancet. It focused on the effects of olive oil on patients, but unfortunately, it is still not well known enough. So what do we need? Well, we need new labeling rules, because currently there are major regulatory barriers when it comes to describing the product on the label. It's also important to ensure effective communication. This is vital if we are to lead a supply chain which is environmentally friendly. Thank you very much for your attention. And congratulations for the organization of this event.
It's interesting, this presentation, because as you heard, there is a need to increase the production of olive oil. And concerning Italy, I may add that since we have abandoned 10 million hectares of farmed land, we have a lot of opportunities to recover and to restore olive orchards, other cultivation, to help the production that we need in order to be sustainable, which I would remember first require to produce where you live. Our next speaker is Mr. Andrea Gaudenzi, a passionate young farmer and oil producer from the Italian GIAHS site of the terraced orchards belt of Assisi. This is one of the 27 Italian sites of the National Register of Historic Landscape that are slowly candidating to the GIAHS. I remember that in this area you have an olive orchard with 1,800 years old, but this area is also very interesting because it's a mountain area, so very steep slopes, where usually many would think that olive oil production it's not competitive, cannot survive. But as a matter of fact, what you have there is one of the most interesting combination we are looking for in promoting the GIAHS, which is an added value given to the combination of high quality of food and high quality of landscape. So this is an added value that cannot be replicated by competitors, which allowing this producer living in these mountain areas to have a place on the market. So, Mr. Gaudenzi, you have the floor. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be here. And I hope you forgive me if my speech will be in Italian, but the English of the translators will be surely better than mine.
Your English is quite good, I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to share my presentation. Ok. L'incontro tra storia ed innovazione è un tema molto sentito nel mio territorio. Come si può tranquillamente immaginare, nel territorio
Olive oil is particularly present in the area I live in, which is the Assisi Spoleto olive oil belt. Each family has their own olive grove and produces olive oil for the whole year. Harvest time is a festive time that brings together friends and family who work together to pick the olives and produce the oil. Here are some figures. 1.5 million olive trees and 50 presses for a population of 144,000. That means there are 10 olive trees per inhabitant. In my village, this figure can reach up to 50 olive trees per inhabitant. So this gives you an idea of the importance of this tree, which is a major symbol for our culture. And it's even considered sacred. And this brings me to Saint Emilian. who is the patron saint of our region. The legend goes that he died after being tied to a young olive tree. This was at a time when olive trees were not yet widespread in the region, and the region was not yet known as the Olive Belt. I'd like to tell you this story because although it may seem a legend to you, it is actually incredible. The history is told in Passo Sant'Emilione, which is a text that dates back to 1,800 years ago. It is described very precisely and very accurately. The tree where Sant'Emiliano was tied. Now, olive trees over centuries died from frost, except one of them, and that is the olive tree which is described in this text, this ancient text. Many studies have confirmed the age of this tree, which dates back to 1,000 years ago. So that is fully in line with what is described in the accounts of Sant'Emiliano's death. It is the most ancient olive tree of the region and even of Italy. This is an area where there's a very strong tradition of olive trees, and therefore it's rather inevitable that there is a clash between tradition and innovation. In our landscape, there's great historical value. There's a network of presses which reduce storage time to a maximum. However, it also has a history of innovation with the discovery of the benefits of olive oil in the Mediterranean diet, for example. In order to achieve high standards, you have to let go of some preconceived ideas of the past. Technological innovation has had a major impact, and as a result, we can confidently say that olive oil produced today is the best it has ever been. This is due to some major innovations in the olive oil production sector. The early harvest period, for example, reduced storage times. We used to store olives for 1 week or more between harvest and pressing, but now it's not stored for any longer than 24 hours. We've improved the olive breaking process and maceration process, and also we've achieved better management of these processes. This has allowed us to improve the quality of oil, and we must continue along this path. Tradition should not be a prison, but a solid foundation on which to build our olive growing model. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gaudenzi, and also for saving some time for the presentation. And now I would like to introduce Dr. Marco Scortichini, Research Director at the Italian Council for Agricultural Research and Economics, who will touch on a very important issue at past affecting olive trees in the south of Italy, in Puglia. Namely, we speak about progress towards sustainable control of Xylella fastidiosa in the olive groves of Salento, a really terrible disease also for the landscape of this region dominated by olive trees. Please, you have the floor, Dr. Scortichini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to everybody. I would like to thank the organizing committee for this opportunity to talk about this problem. So far, we are talking about the beauty of olive oil. Unfortunately, as the convener introduced, I have to talk about a negative and threatening disease that is currently devastating one very relevant multi-millennial olive agroecosystem of southern Italy, precisely in Salento, in the Apulia Peninsula. This is an aerial view of the traditional Salento olive agroecosystem, and you can see from this other view what is happening in many hectares in the provinces of Lecce, Brindisi, and Taranto. This is the symptoms caused by Xylella fastidiosa, a quarantine bacterium that was introduced in the area probably in between 15 and 18 years ago. The final image of the trees are this one. So and this view unfortunately characterizing the most of the southern part of Salento in the Apulia region. And as a bacteriologist and the group working with me, we started 7 years ago a study trying to mitigate with some sustainable solution this devastating disease. One of the misunderstandings that happened in this issue was the confusion between control and elimination of a pathogen. In plant disease, in plant protection, for control, we mean the reduction of disease incidence and severity to an acceptable level through the deliberated efforts. This is the common situation in any plant disease for obtaining the crop. In other words, I don't eliminate completely the pathogen from the crop, but year by year, by sustainable strategies, I can lower the cell concentration of the pathogen to a limit that the plant survive and heal. By contrast, elimination means the reduction to zero of the incidence of a specific disease in a defined area. And for reaching this aim, a continued intervention measure are required. So it's very difficult, especially with woody trees, eliminate a pathogen afterwards its introduction in an area. So this is our enemy. You see this biofilm is these masses of bacterial cells that occludes the xylem tissue where the water flows from the roots to the crown, and this occlusion causes the wilting of the twigs and subsequently the tree death. With many colleagues and scientists from different universities and technical studies, we perform an interdisciplinary studies that was published 4 years ago on the Phytopathologia Mediterranea, where we showed this preliminary but interesting promises obtained through zinc, copper, and citric acid biocomplex that was sprayed 6 times per year during spring and summer to the canopy of the tree. This is some sketches of this first study. You see the green, the fluorescent green indicate where this biocomplex has reached the internal part of the tree where the pathogen lives. This means that this compound effectively reached the xylem tissue where Xylella lives. And since it has a bactericidal effect, it can lower the cell concentration. You see this circle. The bigger is circle, the bigger is the concentration of Xylella within the tree. See on the left side, the blue circles, the right one indicate the control, and the left ones indicate the treated tree that you can see are always smaller upon the treatments. The same situation occurs on the left with the other control tree. You see that the control tree always has a very high pathogen concentration in comparison with the treated trees. This was the main results of the first study. In a second one that was released 1 year ago, we studied the midterm efficacy of this treatment with some farms that actually introduced this protocol within the control strategies. And we confirm the previous studies. You see that the final result is that according to this gray column, the pathogen does not disappear from the tree, but the tree survives in the infected area and regularly produced. Some farms currently are practices this protocol since 5 or 6 years continuously and has reaching interesting result. The protocol is very simple.
Dr. Scortichini.
Yes, citric acid once per month from March to September. It's important the mechanical removal of the weeds during February and early May to destroy the vector, and regular pruning every 2 years, and not on a long time period. This is an image on the right, abandoned orchard, on the left, treated one. The same. In the upper part abandoned, in the lower part treated orchard. Again on the right, you see the efficacy of the protocol is quite clear. You see very closely each orchard. On the left abandoned, on the right are treated. So we are quite confident on this protocol, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Scortichini, for your valuable contribution. I will now pass the floor to the last speaker of this session, Mrs. Fatima Hem from FAO's Food and Nutrition Division, who will speak about the contribution of oils and other lipids to sustainable diets. Ms. Hem, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I will be today presenting the importance of olive oil in healthy diets from sustainable food, agri-food systems. And by that, I mean, of course, the Mediterranean diet, because if we are talking about sustainability, then for us in Nutrition Division, we are talking about 3 main aspects of dimensions of sustainability: the health and nutrition dimension, the environmental dimension, and of course the sociocultural dimension. So when it comes to the health benefits of the Mediterranean diet, it is well known, well documented. Research has been accumulating since the early 60s that the Mediterranean diet reduces overall risks of mortality, of cardiovascular diseases, coronary heart diseases, overall cancer incidences, diabetes, degenerative diseases. So the list is very long, and I think it's not, I will need more than 7 minutes to cover that all. So this is confirmed. We also know in the last decade or a little bit more that the Mediterranean diet has been also documented to have lower water footprints, lower greenhouse gas emissions, lower land use, lower energy consumption, and lower water consumption in comparison to Western diets or diets that we also consume in Europe. And of course, from the sociocultural point of view, UNESCO has said it all about the set of skills, knowledge, practices from landscape to table. So I don't need to go along that line because it is also documented and well researched. So this is the system that I'm going to talk to when it comes to the olive oil, because it's not only the olive oil, it's the whole system altogether that is giving all these health and environmental and sociocultural benefits. So, but lately, over the last 2 decades, there has been research pointing to the protective effect of olive oil itself as food and as part of a dietary pattern that is the Mediterranean diet. And much of this research has been showing that the composition of the fatty acids of the olive oil is producing these beneficial effects, and we call them the monounsaturated fatty acids because of their chemical composition. So this is what research has been focusing on, but not only. There are more elements coming from research to show that other components in the olive oil are also contributing to the beneficial effects of olive oil. But to start with our olive oil scheme, from a composition and quality point of view, of course, they're not. And there are different types of oils depending on their free acidity according to the Codex Alimentarius classification. First, in the nutrition sciences, what is interesting is the extra virgin olive oil. Why? The extra virgin olive oil, of course, is important because of its lipid composition and high percentage of monounsaturated fats in it that is associated with the better health outcomes, but also, and different to the other types of oil, because of its phenolic content, which are these phenolic compounds have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, which are essential in protecting against disease, especially coronary heart diseases and other types of acidities. So, but we need to know that the phenols in extra virgin oils are affected by the type of olives that we grow, how we grow the olives, where they are grown, how they're harvested and stored, and how the oil is extracted and also cooked. So the cultivar is important, the meteorological conditions are important, the degree of ripeness at the time of harvest is important to the content of phenolic compounds. Here I want to focus on 3 elements of the food system that contribute to the health benefits of the oil, so that to show links. And I will focus on the agricultural practices, agronomic practices, in particular irrigation and fertilization, the extraction technology and cooking. So from supply to consumption, we see how the phenolic compounds are affected. So research shows that irrigation affects the content and composition, in fact, of the phenolic compounds, and that there is a negative correlation between the amount of water and the concentration of some of the very important phenolic compounds in extra virgin oil. And these phenolic compounds actually allows producers to make health claims for the protection of blood lipids against oxidation, according to the European Food Safety Authority. So, so irrigation affects that. Fertilization affects also these good phenolic compounds. So an increase in nitrogen fertilization has been shown to deplete the good phenolic compounds in extra virgin oil.
We have 1 minute, Dr. Achem.
Okay, then I will talk about the extraction technology and the type of cultivars, the types of decanters that are used for olive oil extraction, and the difference in the content of total phenol depending on the type of decanter, or on the type whether some nitrogen gases are used in the malaxation step. Finally, the cooking method is very important. So it's not all about olive oil, it's also about how we heat olive oil, because cooking, heating olive oil, extra virgin olive oil for 15 minutes at 180 degrees centigrade will lead to a depletion of 45% of the of the phenolic compounds, the good phenolic compounds. Then when vegetables are present, we gain some, there's some protective effect. And also when we use olive oil, extra virgin olive oil on vegetables after cooking, it's better. So to leave you with a few takeaway messages, the health benefits of olive oil, especially I'm thinking about extra virgin olive oil, is very important to understand within the local food systems practice, from production till the consumption. It's very important to work together with the producer to increase the phenolic content of olive oil and also to preserve them during storage, processing, and cooking. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Yahen, also for reminding that not all the olive oil have the same quality, which is a fundamental message also for the consumers and as well as for the farmers. We have now come to the end of the second session. We'll now move to the third one, which will take us on a tour around the world visiting traditional vegetable oil production system, including some system recognized by FAO with the GIAHS program. I would like to thank all the panelists to take part in this session, also for maintaining the time that was a short time that was available. It's difficult to maintain a speech just in 7 minutes, so thank you very much for your effort. And I will pass over to our next moderator, Mrs. Federica Romano, Program Specialist at the GIAHS Secretariat FAO in Rome. Please, Federica.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Agnoletti. Good morning, everybody, dear participants, distinguished panelists. Welcome to this third session of our webinar, Smooth as Oil. It is my pleasure to moderate this last session of the webinar today with title Traditional Vegetable Oils World Tour, a Curious Observer's Guide. Before starting this session, we will play a short and impactful, highly emotional video, which will set, let's say, the atmosphere of the session and will introduce the GIAHS program. So I kindly ask the colleagues to launch the video, please. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome back. So after these nice images, you can imagine that the objective of this session is to give the chance to different countries around the world to present and to showcase experiences regarding the production and consumption of traditional vegetable oils. We will, in this sense, virtually visit Japan, China, Spain, Indonesia, Guatemala, and Morocco. And before leaving the floor to our first speaker, I would like to remind all speakers and all panelists that meeting and interpretation services will finish at the scheduled time. So I really ask everybody to respect the 5 minutes which are available for each presentation. Thank you very much in advance. And so our first speaker is Dr. Mayu Aizawa. I hope that my pronunciation is not too bad. And he's the director of the rice bran oil at Suna Foods in Japan. So please, Dr. Aizawa, I invite you to take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Mayu Aizawa from Japan. So today I will introduce about rice bran oil from Japan. So can you see my screen? Is it okay?
Yes, we see it. Maybe you can show it in a presentation mode. Thank you. Perfect.
Okay, so first, the olive is one of the most emblematic trees of the Mediterranean basin, while the rice is an essential part of Asian culture and diets. And olive oil is high monosaturated fatty acids and antioxidants for the benefits of the Mediterranean diets. On the other hand, rice bran oil also has rich in nutrients and strong antioxidant effect, regarded as a healthy oil in Japan. So there are many similar points between olive oil and rice bran oil. So we hope that in the future, rice bran oil will be recognized like as Oriental olive oil. So what is a rice bran? This is paddy. After threshing, we can get brown rice. Brown rice polished by milling machine. Then we can get the white rice. And at the same time, the rice bran is produced as a byproduct. So now, as you see, the rice bran is a skin of white rice. This figure shows the nutrition composition of brown rice. A part of the white color are located in white rice, and the brown color is located in rice bran. So it's all most important vitamins and minerals contained in rice bran. And this is the reason why rice bran oil has very rich nutrients. This is the manufacture process. We can get only 10 kg edible rice bran oil from 1 ton brown rice. So it is very rare and a valuable oil. So the rice bran oil can be classified to high-end product compared to common vegetable oil. Rice bran oil can be used for deep fry, saute, and dressing. It has very mild taste, non-greasy, perfect for all kinds of dishes. Comparing the resistance against high temperature heating by deep frying croquette, soybean oil and canola oil had forming easily deteriorated, but rice bran oil could keep the good quality. Besides, after frying, it was very crisp with light texture. So the Japanese restaurant, especially providing tempura, prefer to use rice bran oil. From the nutritional perspective, rice bran oil had a much higher content of vitamin E, resulting in high antioxidant effect. Besides, rice bran oil had the highest contents of plant sterol, contributing to the reduction of LDL cholesterol. And let's see the fatty acid composition. Rice bran oil had a good balanced fatty acid, resulting in providing the high stability. Rice bran oil contains unique component, the named gamma oryzanol, which has multi-functions such as strong antioxidant effect, improving blood circulation, and lowering cholesterol effect. This is the production of rice bran oil in Japan. In the past 5 years, the demand had been increasing year by year with average growth rate 104%. Rice bran oil can use not only for household use, but also for bakery, healthcare, skincare, and industrial applications. So it would be benefit for 3 directions: environment, producers, and consumers. So our rice bran oil manufacturers continue to make an effort to develop the market all over the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aizawa, for being really very in time, perfectly in time. Thank you so much also for this and for your interesting and comprehensive presentation about rice bran oil. Thank you. So I have now the pleasure to introduce Mr. Jinjiang Li, representing one of the outstanding and unique GIAHS sites in China. He's an expert from the Museum of Thoraya, very special type of almond, which is at the basis of a vegetable oil. And Mr. Li, you have a video to share with us to introduce your intervention, and then you have your presentation, please. Thank you.
凝聚千年时光，孕育一粒精华。这一枚小小的果实，是灵山秀水的结晶，日月风露的精魄。香榧系我国特有的第3纪结衣植物，隶属红豆杉科榧属。在我国境内，100年以上的古香榧树主要分布在会稽山脉。此脉匍匐于地球的黄金气带，北纬30度之上，4大文明古国发源地，无数神秘现象和未解之谜在此汇聚。走入会稽山脉深处，满目皆是姿态万千的香榧树，这里有500年以上的古榧树2.6万株。1000年以上的珍稀古榧树5000多株，是我国唯一的香榧自然保护区。2013年，包括中国香榧森林公园在内的诸级古香榧群被列为全球重要农业文化遗产。香榧树有着活化石之称，它雌雄异株，具有奇特的2代果现象。是集食用、药用、观赏于一身的世界珍贵经济树种。香榧具有降脂活血、生筋补血、舒筋壮骨、排毒养颜、免疫抗病、延年益寿的药理作用和功效。现代医学表明，香榧果皮提取物是美容、护肤领域不可多得的珍稀原料。
Okay, so thank you for this video introduction. So, Mr. Li, you have 3 minutes left, please.
大家好，我是李金昌。下面由我来介绍一下会稽山的香榧，玉果山珍这里榧油。
Present Toria in China. First of all, I'll be making a brief presentation on Toria. Toria comes from the family of Phalotaxus. It's a plant which originates in China. And it's also a very productive plant. It can be used for food purposes or medical purposes. The Toria almonds are very rich in lipids, over 55.76%. The almonds also contain 17 amino acids, including 7 which are vital for the human body. They also contain 19 minerals, which is 20 times higher than the content of ordinary dried fruits. Now, let me present to you the fatty acid composition of Toria almonds. They contain over 9 fatty acids with a very high content in minoleic acids and oleic acids. The specific fatty acid, which is particularly present, is the arachidonic nosidurate acid, which constitutes 9.13% of these fatty acids. These acids can have anti-inflammatory effects, which can regulate these levels in blood.
Excuse me, Dr. Lee, you have 1 minute left, and that's it. Please, thank you.
这个角鲨多酚呢，对预防老年引起的心脑血管疾病呢是有非常好的疗效。
Now, when it comes to the components, tocopherol, phytosterol, and polyphenol. Now, let us look at the industrial processes involved in extracting this oil. Urea oil is bright and transparent. It is delicious, and it can be adapted to any type of cooking. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. Sorry for this very tight time schedule. And thank you very much for giving us many interesting insights regarding this particular GIAHS site and its products. So our next speaker of the third session is Professor Pietro Paganini from the John Cabot University. He's an expert in sustainable palm oil production. He will share with us as well a brief video and a short brief video, and then a PowerPoint presentation. Thank you, Professor Paganini. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the privilege of being here. I'm actually not in Indonesia or in any palm oil producing country. I'm in Tuscany, so I have a clear conflict of interest, having a lot of olive trees around me. Let me talk about the palm oil and what palm oil is. Palm oil is an important food ingredient that ensures a healthy, nutritious, and safe diet for a billion of people worldwide. The palm oil supply chain is a global benchmark for sustainability. The palm oil industry is leading the way in the adoption of certification schemes and best practices to protect biodiversity. Palm oil industry provides millions of jobs worldwide, particularly in developing countries, and it promotes prosperity and enhances life conditions, and it fosters innovation. And it's incredible to think how such a small plant can grow very quickly and produce so many fruits during the year with such an incredible yield per hectare. And this yield per hectare, as like the olive from the olive tree, can be squeezed, and it can produce an incredible oil that can be used for edible purposes. And as you know, it can anywhere in your daily diet, but it can also be used, more and more in the kitchen, in cuisines, particularly not in Europe, but around the world. Billions of people are using it for cooking purposes. It can be found in the home care products, most of your shampoos and toothpaste and so on, and cosmetics. And as you know, it's also for technical purposes, and particularly for the biodiesel. It's produced in an amazing quantity. Obviously, the big star is Indonesia with 52 and more million tons per year, followed by Malaysia and Thailand in Asia. But also there are rising stars in Central America, in the tropical area around the world. So there's a multi-source production. Think about Colombia and Guatemala that are growing pretty fast. And then there is a lot of hope for Africa, where Nigeria is leading the way with 1.4 million tons, but it's also a big opportunity of job, employment, and prosperity for many other countries that I wish could invest more in palm oil plantation. And if you put together the most enhanced countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, Colombia, and Guatemala, well, it achieves, the supply chains of palm oil can achieve 12 out of the 17 of the SDGs. And just to give you an example, Indonesia employs in the palm oil supply chain 70 million people, 2.6 of which are smallholders. Colombia has incredible numbers, but moreover, 83% of people working in the palm oil fields are legally employed in a country where 85% are illegal, and the palm oil plantation are taking over illegal crops and illegal plantation. And Guatemala, again, is almost reaching 200,000 people. That's a big number in such a small country. There are studies showing that where palm oil plantations take place, there is an incredible reduction of poverty. And as you know, palm oil has been accused of a lot of deforestation, and this is a fact. But if you look at the numbers for the past years, this is about Indonesia, the numbers of fires have been reduced, and the deforestation is more and more being stopped. And this is obviously a great fact. And because of this, the palm oil supply chain is a great example for sustainability, and it's the oil with the highest number of certification schemes. And here I just posted 4 main certification scheme. I had a lot of stories that I could show. I just took a video for 1 minute, couple of minutes. I have a few stories in Spanish, actually, in Central America stories. If you allow me, I will just show them and just show one story for a minute, so I don't take too much time, if I'm able to share. But most of the stories are also online. They are beautiful stories. So let me show this video.
We cannot hear the audio. Sorry, Professor Paganini. We should maybe try again because it's not working.
Sorry if there was a problem. Probably was due to my speakers. They work in the practice session, but not now. But there were subtitles, so that was the good thing. Thank you so much. And if you have any question, I'm here.
Let's continue. Okay, thank you very much. So thank you, Professor Paganini, for your introduction and overview about sustainable ways of producing palm oil and linking its supply chain also to SDGs and these four global challenges. So thank you very much. So we continue now, and we travel to Spain, where we have here today a manager of the GIAHS site located in Senia, so Mrs. Teresa Adel Pons, who will show us the millenary olive tree GIAHS system and efforts made to promote this unique territory. Again, we will have a short video which will be presented now, and then Mrs. Pons will then conclude with a brief intervention. So please. Thank you.
Hola, buenos días. Soy Teresa Adel.
My name is Teresa Adel. I'm the manager of the Mancomunidad Taula de Senia, and I'm also in charge of the GIAHS ancient olive trees in the Senia territory in Spain. I'd like to thank you for inviting me to take part in today's event. The Senia territory has a surface area of 207,000 hectares and 112,000 inhabitants. It is made up of 27 municipalities from 3 different autonomous regions. There are almost 6,500 millenary olive trees in Territorio Sena. These are olive trees which measure over 3.5 meters in trunk girth with a height of 1.30 meters, and some of them even measure over 10 meters. In the past few decades, the millenary olive trees have been severely threatened by plundering. Many of them have been ripped out of the ground and transferred to other places as decorative plants. Over the past 15 years, we've been working to conserve and to enhance these trees. And we've been working in raising awareness among farmers and owners in drafting protection laws for these trees. The olive oil of these millenary trees is traded with certification of its origin and quality, which is guaranteed using the Aceite Virga Millenaria label. We are seeing an increase in the development of olive oil tourism with guided visits and tastings, museums, paths and cycle pathways as well. We're also working with restaurants in the area who are fully involved in this project. This has been possible thanks to sustainable management of resources. We have been maintaining the previously used dry rain-fed crops, and we now have indigenous varieties which are perfectly adapted to the characteristics of the area, and we have very low plantation density as well. Now, I'm going to show you a video which will show these millenary trees which produce olive oil, which is the basis of the Mediterranean diet. These millenary olive trees are part of a resilient agricultural system which fosters biodiversity, autochthonous or indigenous varieties of olives, and it's a resilient form of farming which has become vital for local development and a symbol of identity. I'm going to show the video. I hope that you can hear it, and in any case, I hope that you can see the images. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Adele Pons, for bringing to us today the passion of the protagonists of this GIAHS site to our attention. I believe that many of us would like to visit this site after watching this video. So thank you very much. And now our international tour around the world, let's say, comes to an end. And it comes to an end with a last contribution from North Africa. We travel now to Morocco, and we learn more about the gastronomic uses of argan oil. We do this with Professor Said Garbi, who is an expert on argan oil. The floor is yours. You have 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Bonjour. Est-ce que vous arrivez à voir ma présentation?
Good morning. Can you see my presentation?
Oui, merci. Au revoir.
Yes, we can.
Merci.
Thank you very much. Madam Romano, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Said Garbi. I am a researcher at the Polyterdisciplinary Faculty of Terradont at Ibn Zour University of Morocco. I'm very excited and very pleased to take part in this fascinating event. Now, before I begin, allow me to first of all thank the organizing committee for the excellent work they've undertaken. And I'd also like to thank all of the speakers who have taken part in this international event, sharing their expertise and their knowledge in the field of oil. Now, I'll be talking about a rare, luxurious oil, which is extracted from a tree which is endemic to Morocco. I will be focusing on the chemical composition and the nutritional properties of argan oil, food argan oil. I will be addressing 3 points. First of all, I'll be introducing the argan tree. Then I'll present the extraction methods and chemical composition. And lastly, I will show you the nutritional properties of argan oil. The argan tree is endemic to Morocco. It belongs to the Sapetitian family, and it is mainly present in the southwest of Morocco. It can live up to 250 years, and it's very resistant to temperatures up to 50 degrees. This tree produces small fruits which are oval, spherical, and they can be many different shapes. It's made up of 2 parts, the pulp and the nut. And the nut contains oily almonds with up to 50% of the famous argan oil inside it. The argan tree plays a very important role, first of all, on an environmental level. It contributes to maintaining, preserving soil health. It prevents soil erosion. And it also has a social role and an economic role. And this is because it can be used for many different purposes, because each part of the tree can be used for food or for other purposes. That's why the tree is so special. All of its parts can be used. You can use the wood and the hulls for energy. You can use pulp for animal feed and the leaves as well. And you can use the amendons for argan oil. Now, when it comes to the extraction methods, for centuries, this oil has been prepared according to traditional methods. And it is rather time-consuming. Women have to work over 24 hours for 1 liter of argan oil with a yield of 40%. So this process starts with the depulping, followed by crushing, which is the most difficult part because the women will have to remove the hulls using 2 stones, one as a hammer and one as a surface to crush it on. then the almonds are roasted, and later the extraction phase takes place. Now we've moved towards a more mechanical process by automating most of these processes except from the crushing part. Thanks to this new technology, cooperatives of women oil makers are producing certified quality oil, which is in line with the standards in the industry. And it also enables them to improve the yield.
One more minute. I'm really sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, when it comes to the chemical composition of this oil, it has a unique composition. It is well balanced between monosaturated fatty acids, the oleic acid and linoleic acids. It is also very high in terms of tocopherols, higher than olive oil, in fact. The biggest difference is its phytosterol content. In fact, it has two sterols, scotanol and spinasterol, which cannot be found in other oils. It also has many nutritional properties. It is a source of energy. It also provides omega-6 and omega-9. And it is also very rich in tocopherol. Studies have shown that it has anti-inflammatory properties. It can contribute to preventing cardiovascular disease and reducing cholesterol. Now, to wrap up my presentation, I'd like to give you some key dates. In 1998, the Argonne Grove was recognized as a biosphere reserve by UNESCO. And in 2018, it was recognized as a GIAHS. And in 2021, in February, the United Nations proclaimed the 10th of May as the International Argon Tree Day. Thank you very much for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, Professor Garbi. Thank you very much, Professor Garbi. Thank you for this interesting presentation addressing also the relevant role of women in the argan oil production. It's very important, and I think this should be pointed out. Thank you. Thank you. I would like now to, first of all, thank all speakers of this session who participated with us today to this event and for shedding light on the cultural, environmental, and social importance of traditional vegetable oils around the world. Before I want to, I want also to express our thanks to all participants, of course, and to audiovisual services for their outstanding technical support. Thank you very much. Before leaving the floor to Dr. Neufeld for the closing remarks, I would like to just quickly remind to our participants that every question which was raised in the chat that has not been replied or addressed during the webinar will receive an answer via email. So following the event, this can be done. Okay, so please, Dr. Lynette Neufeld, ESN Director of FAO, you have the floor for the closing remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, and a very big thank you and congratulations to the organizers and all the presenters from today's event. Our diets are at the center of our health, and traditional diets are not only our health, but they're also our culture and have an important contribution to be making towards sustainability goals. I learned a lot today about oils in various dietary patterns around the world, and it was interesting for me to hear also from the other side related to their production, processing, and the opportunities and challenges that the sectors face in that regard. Today, we've heard about health associations of traditional diets and specifically the role of vegetable oils as a part of those diets. We heard about the components of vegetable oil that may be underlying those health benefits and the importance of the processing types for those health outcomes to be realized. We also heard that not all vegetable oils contribute equally to health outcomes or have that potential equally to contribute to health outcomes. Olive oil is certainly the most studied of the oils that we have discussed, and it is also almost exclusively the source of dietary fat in the Mediterranean diet, famed for its significant association with lower risk of mortality, cardiovascular disease and cancer, some forms of cancer, and even stroke among women. But we still have much to learn about the health association of other traditional diets and the properties of the oils that are included in those diets. Today's announcement of the observatory is an important step to consolidating that evidence and experience and to help prioritize new areas of research and practice to promote healthy diets from sustainable food systems. Coming back to oils for a moment, as a nutritionist, I would be negligent not to remind us all that more is not always better when it comes to nutrition. All types of oil are high in calories and should be consumed in quantities aligned with international guidance and national food-based dietary guidelines. Today, the world faces major malnutrition challenges. Before the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, it was estimated that 149 million children under the age of 5 were stunted, meaning that they hadn't grown to their own individual potential. Over 45 million children were wasted, which is a critically important condition that increases their risk of mortality and morbidity. The burden of these two manifestations of malnutrition predominantly are in Africa and several parts of Asia. But on the other hand, there are several nutrition issues that affect all regions, and I would hazard to say all countries globally. Specifically, almost 4 million children and more than 1 in 10 adults globally are overweight or obese. A recent review that will be published very soon also estimates that 1.6 billion women and children less than 5 years of age are deficient in at least one vitamin and mineral, including a very high percentage in high-income countries, not only low and middle-income countries. While these nutrition issues have many different causes and conditions that lead to them, healthy diets are key to addressing all forms of malnutrition. And we have so much to learn from traditional diets, their potential to contribute to nutrition and health outcomes, but also that in the context of their importance in culture, tradition, and the protection of the environment. On that note, I would like to applaud the efforts of all of those who have been involved in the preparation of this webinar and for the initiative to document and explore traditional diets and their potential to promote health and prevent malnutrition. Learning from and building on these traditions is good for people and for planet. And with that, I would like to thank you all for your time and attention, and I look forward to continuing to engage with you all on this important initiative. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Also from my side, if you allow me, a big thank and appreciation to the Italian permanent representation for to FAO in the person of Ambassador Lo Monaco and her staff, with particular reference to Giorgio Cavalieri, to the moderators of this webinar, so Dr. Yoshida Endo, the Professor Mauro Agnoletti, and finally all the staff, the GIAHS Secretariat staff who worked for the good success of this webinar. We can take a final group photo if you don't mind, so always able to switch on the camera, please. We will have a group photo for communication purposes, and this makes the end of the webinar. Thank you very much. So please smile, switch on the cameras. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much again.
Thank you very much.
Ambassador Lo Monaco, wanted to say something?
I'm trying to activate the...
Okay.
Grazie a tutti, è stato bellissimo ritrovarsi e soprattutto abbiamo imparato, abbiamo avuto delle informazioni essenziali che penso ci aiuteranno molto nella comprensione reciproca.
Essential information, and I believe this will allow us to better understand each other. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you again to everybody. Have a nice day. Bye.